Hey, you're watching Half Asian Tarot Queen. It is eclipse season. Oh, okay, so I just did a split. Did a split and I got the King of Swords and the Knight of Pentacles. So this is really interesting because this just came through in a reading like a couple days ago called The Cold Hard Truth. And so that's kind of what this is. It's like this truth is like, this harsh truth is coming down in an undeniable fashion. And so things are going to start moving forward. Slowly and steadily, but in a sustainable way that's like built to last. So let me see what happens when I pull this down. See what we get about the cold hard truth. Okay, so this... excuse me. What I'm getting from this... Okay. So, this kind of came through, and I'm not sure if it was in the Cold Hard Truth reading or if it was a different one, but it was all about like making reparations for somebody who had kind of been run through the ringer over sort of a deception or a lie or whatever the truth is coming down about. So that's kind of how I'm taking this, lovers. It's like integrating and making whole again. So I don't remember if that was the same reading or if it different one. If it was a different one, I'll link it here. But I mean, basically, this situation is being brought into balance. They're putting the burden down. It could be involving some sort of fire sign, or things are being brought into balance. Or this could be like someone sort of manifesting this situation and kind of empowering themselves. Is kind of how I'm getting that energy. But in the last couple days, and like that's the sort of thing with the eclipse season, like this truth is coming down, and so now it's like maybe there's like finally some sort of like acceptance about like the reality of the truth, you know. And so then we're going to start to move forward. We have this Nine of Pentacles energy, which is a single independent energy, maybe being victorious. This came through in that reparations reading too, about how these new collaborations were injustice is coming online and happiness for this single independent energy. So it's like this person has kind of been run through the ringer, and it's like they're finally able to move forward in this sort of just situation. So like the example that's kind of current right now that I was talking about in the other reading was the situation of Johnny Depp, and how like the truth is finally coming out about his situation. And it's interesting because you know, like if you follow the readings, it's like at first it was just sort of like everyone's like, oh my gosh, we love Johnny, you know, and then like her testimony came out, and at first it was like, you know, like you could tell that like part of it was true, and it was, you know, probably like this launch pad for like these embellishments, you know. And so at first you're just like, how much of this is true and how much of it isn't? You're kind of trying to separate it, but you can see that there's this messy situation, and obviously there were some substance issues, so you're like, well, you're kind of not really sure what to think about it. It's like kind of so nasty that you're a little bit shell-shocked, you know. But then the more it goes on and the more that the story gets unravels, it's sort of like, this is like a total train wreck. Like, so it's interesting. And so OMG, so when I did the mystical shaman, I got fire and lightning. This is like super dramatic, but like this is sort of like a shocking truth that's kind of like breaking through and kind of changing the landscape, you know, on a fundamental level. and sparking some sort of transformative moment. So that's interesting. I see the Amazon truck, so I'm gonna be right back. Okay, I'm back. So I just pulled it from the Priestess of Light, and it was interesting because this card flipped out hostilities, conflict, and unrest. And then what's interesting is at the bottom of the deck we had idyllic times, the garden, and paradise. So it's super weird because there's just this complete opposites, you know, and it's almost like this truth is opening up separate paths for people, depending on how you align with the truth. Like if you're not in alignment with the truth, then there's like conflict and hostilities and trouble, you know, and maybe having to face the repercussions of that, you know. But if you are in alignment of the truth, it's like this beautiful foundational beginning, and we have this owl here, so it's like guidance from your ancestors, and just this beautiful foundation. So it's really interesting that there's been this message leading up to here, which I'll have to link to it, but it's all about how there's this sort of like these two paths that are emerging, with like this sort of truth tribe that's in alignment with the truth, and then have done all this inner work, and then the folks that aren't, because this reality is like coming down, and it's sort of like this moment where it's just sort of like undeniable. So for example, if we're going to the Johnny Depp Amber Heard example, it's just sort of like they've been pushing the can down the road, and like now we've kind of reached this moment of truth where it's like starting to be clear to like not just them but to everyone else, like what the truth of the situation is. And so like for Johnny, he's finally going to be liberated from all this injustice that he's been carrying around, and it's probably going to be this new beginning for him that's going to be like really beautiful. And when I picked up this card, we got Soul Radiance, Phoenix Rising. So it's like the beginning of a comeback for him, and probably a really beautiful era, you know. But then on the other side, we have maybe having to face up to whatever, you know. And so Amber, you know, she might not have such a good time, you know, because she'll probably end up with a bunch of bills and people that are upset with her and bad karma, you know. So it's like both of those things are happening at the same time. Okay. Oh my gosh. So when I pulled out the light seers, when I split the deck, I got Judgment, which is the reckoning, which is kind of what I was just describing. We got the Queen of Swords, which is a card of having to draw boundaries. So maybe like this person, in order to make way for this second coming, they're going to have to draw boundaries around themselves to like protect themselves from this super negative energy that's in the environment. So I'm going to shuffle this deck and see what else we get, and then maybe finish up this reading. But yeah, let's just like pull out the popcorn for eclipse season, because it's definitely an interesting time. Okay. For sure. And definitely it's kind of a turning point. Okay. All right, so at the bottom, oh, we got Judgment again. That's so crazy. So undeniably, it's like there's this reckoning where we're just like, we're like gonna level the playing field, and there's gonna be accountability for whatever situation, so that everyone can just start to move forward instead of you know, recycling the situation and over again. But we got the Seven of Wands. So this is a person who's really, in order to sort of maintain their inner peace, is going to have this bubble of peace around them and draw boundaries around them. We have the King of Cups, which is someone who's kind of operating from a heart-centered place, you know, and in alignment with their heart and empowered from that energy. And that person is getting this opportunity to move forward. The Page of Pentacles. It's just the very beginnings. And then we also have the Nine of Swords. So there's also a lot of fear and anxiety in the environment. And this came up in this reading called Chaos, Messy Situations, and the Ghost of Kiev. Because it was talking about the Ghost of Kiev being this one fighter jet pilot in Ukraine who like took out like 40 Russian fighter jets before he was killed in combat. And so now it's like this ghost protecting. There's this energy from the higher worlds that's like protecting this person. They don't necessarily see it, you know, they see all these obstacles and, you know, so they're kind of in this self-protective mode, but they do actually have this protection that's holding that back. So this really looks like a rite of passage. Like this person has good things coming to them, but it's like they're going to have to really protect themselves from this. This fell out right under the hostilities because this is also present. And yeah, I mean, it's like kind of like the Ukraine, you know, they're trying to build their country, but they're having to protect themselves from all this war, you know, in order to like move forward. And it's like crazy. Okay, I'm gonna go to the Queen of the Moon Oracle and pick some final cards. It's like as the world turns, this is like a story happening in real time. But I'll pick some final cards and we'll move forward. Okay. Oh my gosh. We got the masculine, so this is like young energy, and it's interesting because there's been all this, like the May monthly reading was all about this sort of empowerment of divine feminine energy, but we have this masculine young energy, which could be like this sort of like aggressive action, you know, but then we have balance and we have purity. So it's almost like this is being brought into balance. This energy is being brought into balance, and it's like there's this fresh snow and there's this new beginning where everything's kind of wiped clean and starting from this fresh white blanket of snow, and it's like pure before it's been sullied by like all the soot and mud and darkness, you know. We're kind of at this new beginning. Yeah, this is definitely like a huge turning point, but it's also like a reckoning where it's just sort of like, depending on how you line up, it's going to be either really good or really bad. And there's not really any in between, you know. It's one or the other. So I'll keep tabs on how things are evolving and check in soon with another message.